All right.
How you doing, Lola?
Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening to
Good
everyone.
evening.
I hope all is well. I'm hearing a bit of background noise. I'm just going to ask everybody if they wouldn't mind just sort of muting themselves before we get moving. That would be great. We've got more folks joining us, so we don't have a magical number for that that time to happen. I think the magical number we've actually reached already. So with that, and unless there's any particular unreadiness other than amongst the commissioners, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is now exactly 6 p.m. on the dot. So I do want to call the meeting to order and thank everyone for coming. I'll share a couple of more comments and welcoming our guests in particular who may be joining us for the first time in a couple of seconds. But as is our usual practice, we normally reserve the very beginning of our meetings with the Human Rights Commission just to simply observe a quiet moment of reflection from a oftentimes hectic day. So with that, I'll just simply ask that we just take a few seconds, a few moments just to pause and reflect and take a deep breath. Thank you. All right, I appreciate that. We do have a bit of an abbreviated agenda this evening, and so I do want to share a couple of things though that I think is really critically important for this hour. My name is Doug Bender, and I am I have the humble task of being the chair of the Human Rights Commission. I just simply want to welcome everyone, as I always do, even with the commissioners themselves. This is truly a labor of love, and we don't take any of this fantastic, loving, kind, and caring work for the city for granted at all. It's the mission of the Greensboro Human Rights Commission to help improve the quality of life for all Greensboro residents by encouraging just simply fair treatment, equitable treatment, and promoting mutual understanding and respect across our beloved community. We have 4 standing committees that we work with as we go about trying to get things done on your behalf. There's actually 5 committees, but the 4 committees that are very active under our umbrella include education, and another one as it relates to employment, which really is about just simply promoting fair employment practices, as it relates to outreach and education and training and so forth and so on, and fostering a spirit and an environment of inclusive practices all across our city in the workplace. We also have a 3rd committee on human services and social equity, a 4th committee on housing. We call it the Montgomery Wells Housing Committee. And then there's another committee that works really somewhat independent of us, even though they're listed under our umbrella. It's known as the International Advisory Committee. That committee does incredible yeoman-like work as it relates to leaning in, if you will, on supporting the international community that we have here in Greensboro, serving immigrants and refugees in the city. And so hopefully that gives you some view or some idea of who we are and what we're all about. We recognize, by the way, that you could be anywhere at any particular point in time, but you're here with us and we appreciate you. We think there's going to be some incredible information to be shared. We've got an outstanding speaker with us this evening, and I will let someone else introduce him in just a couple of moments. Now, because this is an official meeting of ours, the next item on our agenda typically would be reports from the chair, yours truly, as well as each of our standing committees. I am going to yield my time this evening to the time that we devote to our program, our series on Let's Talk Law. And I am going to yield for at least a couple of seconds anyway to see if there is a committee chair, if there's a commissioner who may have any comments or any feedback as it relates to their normal reporting. If it does not, then I will yield the floor to the introduction of our guest speaker for the evening. So let me just pause for half a second. Commissioners, any of you have anything that's pressing in terms of a report? Okay, great. That was fast. So thank you very much for that and allowing me to share that. We're going to jump right into our time of the evening and our guest for the evening. After which we will have just a kind of a couple of housekeeping things to do as we close out our program this evening. But again, welcome and thank you so much for being a part of this. There are 3 of our commissioners. I just want to say this because I think it's really critically important, who work together very collaboratively along with a number of other individuals to really help sort of pull together a series that we are just so proud of in terms of our service to you, called Let's Talk Law. And those 3 commissioners are Commissioner Kentia Smith, Commissioner Akela Campbell, and also Sue Polinsky. And so I'd like to yield the floor now to Commissioner Sue Polinsky to introduce our featured guest speaker of the evening. And thank you all so much for putting in this work.
Thank you, Doug. Somebody needs to mute. Please keep yourself on mute tonight if you can. And I'd like to introduce our speaker tonight. He is Attorney Don Vaughan, who recently was inducted into the North Carolina Bar Association's Hall of Fame, one of 4, and as he said earlier, the only one under 80, and that's quite an achievement for him. Don's office is in downtown Greensboro, and he practices in Guilford County and a lot of surrounding counties, Forsyth, Rockingham, Alamance, all over the place. He's also an adjunct professor of law at Wake Forest University School of Law, and he teaches state and local government. But more important for our stuff tonight is that Don served 2 terms in the North Carolina Senate, one as deputy leader. He served on the Ethics Committee, and he served 4 years on the North Carolina Courts Commission. One of the most important reasons we invited Don tonight, he was instrumental in getting this bill passed in the state, which is called the Revision of Expungement and Motion for Appropriate Relief Law. He'll explain what that means in a little bit. Don's legislative efforts also included Susie's Law that you may have heard of. And Susie's Law deals with animal abuse, and it's been used hundreds of times throughout North Carolina to prosecute animal abusers. It also was made into a full-length movie, which played on the Hallmark Channel. Don previously served 7 terms on the Greensboro City Council, including 2 as mayor pro tem. I could go on with a whole lot of accomplishments, laws in other states that he's helped craft and get enacted. But tonight we're going to talk about expungements, and I'm going to turn the floor over to Don Vaughan.
Well, thank you, Sue. Let me acknowledge our sitting city council member, wonderful Mary Kay, who you're probably the liaison to this commission, are you not? That's wonderful. I don't see any other elected.
Yes, thank you.
I see a lot of good friends here. Bob, you and I cross paths, and many others here. Let's talk about expungements. What could be a duller subject for me to present except expungements? But for many people, it is vitally important, and they don't know that they can expunge their or their children's misdeeds in the past. Now, I was so pleased when I was elected senator from Greensboro, and I had almost all the city of Greensboro and 2 rural counties. It's all sort of changed now. But one of the things that I wanted to do that I had noticed in my practice that many people had gotten a problem in years past, and it stayed on their record. With the way, Sue, computers have gone and the way information has gotten now, in my day, back in the old days when I grew up in Greensboro, if you got some little offense, it wouldn't go on a computer. It wouldn't go on some corporate application. In 2008, they were everywhere. So I was pleased to be part of the very first effort to create an expungement law in North Carolina. And we set the tone for what has been greatly expanded by the North Carolina General Assembly. Now, first, let me say, every criminal act is not expungable. It makes it a very difficult and complex area. But I'm going to try to hit the high points now. And Mary Kay, as you're seeing constituents and others that are seeing folk, maybe this will help explain what they can do to get rid of some flaw and get a second chance. You know, those of us that believe in a higher being believe that people ought to have second chances in life. Over a lifetime, you may screw up once and you may screw up twice. The expungement law gives folk an opportunity to have that second chance. Next slide. And what does an expungement mean? It's not something you hear all the time. What it means in this state, if you qualify that your criminal record will be gone. Now, originally, when I did the original bill here, we did it just so the official records of the state of North Carolina will be gone. But soon we found out that there are vendors that buy criminal records. And even if the North Carolina law was expunged, it would go out on these other providers and end up going in employment records forever. So we passed a law that these other providers of records must, within a period of time, expunge their records too. Now, we still see records on people that were expunged pop up everywhere, but they're supposed to expunge it, and there's a process to get rid of it. But it completely wipes out your record in the North Carolina system. Over, done with, finished. Next slide. I wish that I could say that expungement was easy. Unfortunately, it is a complicated matter and a slow process. Probably 90% of folk would need a lawyer to help them. Free services are available on the internet. It is not an expensive process. An average, it costs to expunge something $400 or $500, which is a lot to folk. But if it's affecting your life and you're not getting a job and you're not getting a driver's license and you're not getting this and that, it would be worthwhile to hire a lawyer or find one of the free services available on the internet to expunge it. Now, one of the problems here is you got a different General Assembly coming in every 2 years. Right now, the law is very favorable to expunge crimes that you've had in the past. It could easily change. And so if someone is thinking about it, get them to do it now. And I'm going to explain the things you can expunge and you can't expunge. The next session of the General Assembly, they may change the law back to the way it was. Hard to know what goes on in Raleigh and what goes on in the mind of legislators. when I helped write and enact the first law, and there were many of us that had hands in this, we had help from, of all people, B.J. Barnes. He said, people ought to expunge stuff, and he helped get the Sheriff's Association on with us. And we finally got the District Attorney Association to come in with us, and other groups very interested in the criminal process. The latest law that has been passed, and there's a bill currently before the General Assembly that I hope they'll take up before they go home sometime in the next month or so, went into effect December the 1st, 2020. And it greatly helped define what is expungable and what is not. Next slide, please. Now, everything is not expungable. And I'm going to go over the most common questions that I get as a lawyer on expungement. But basically, if you had a misdemeanor, you had a trespass, you had a small problem, you wait 5 years after that, and then you're able to apply to a court for an expungement. It's getting the right form, getting down to the clerk's office, getting a judge to sign it, put it through a process. And if you correctly get all the process and just have 5 years wait, it'll be expunged by a judge. That paperwork will go back to the administrative office of the courts. They will click your record gone and then send it to these other providers of records that are supposed to take it off right away. Wonderful thing. Let's say you have multiple misdemeanors. You got 2, and they are not violent. Violent means something that's bad. It's done with a weapon. It is a really bad that. If it's nonviolent, you got a couple of them, you have a 7-year wait, and then you can expunge it and go through the process. The fee is $175, which is not waivable by the court. We don't see that. So you need to scrape over those 7 years, $175 to get up, and then either pay for a lawyer or find a free lawyer if you can find one to help you. Now, felonies are 10 years, which is a long time, but it's a lot better than having that on your record forever. So you have nonviolent, you have a felony, which is more serious than a misdemeanor. It is not violent. It wasn't committed with a weapon, and the whole list of things that are violent. You wait 10 years, you get it expunged by a superior court judge. Next slide. Now, if you had a felony or misdemeanor that was dismissed by the district attorney, or you go to trial and you have a good lawyer and you get the darn thing of finding of not guilty, all of those can be expunged, and generally very quickly, within a month or so. Generally, judges in most counties, not everyone, will look at that, look at the record that has been generated by the court system in front of the judge, and if he sees that it was dismissed or finding, they will expunge that. Now, most people don't know that. They think when you end up with getting a charge dismissed by the district attorney or found not guilty, the thing is over. The problem is computers and the way the system is. It will stay on forever that you were charged with that offense. And a lot of times we see serious offenses like child molestation and other things that could have been simply expunged, but you see it on your record and you're an employer and you see this person has a nasty felony or misdemeanor on there. You can still see that there was not guilty. but it makes them look guilty in the process. Most people just don't understand that. I was fortunate enough over the years to represent some of the larger corporations in Greensboro, Cone Mills being one, and they would get employment. And do you pick somebody that has something on their record that looks bad, even though it's dismissed? Or do you pick the one that doesn't have anything? Well, you pick the one that doesn't have anything, all things being equal. So, folk, if you're talking to people, Mary Kay, you're talking to your constituents out there. Sue, you're talking to your clients out there. Somebody's got something, they said, oh, I got that dismissed, or the DA found it not guilty. It stays in the state's computer. And if you're an employer, like I am, and you look at that, you think, damn, those people are probably guilty of that. It makes them look bad. Under the new law, you may get that expunged, gone, fini, off the radar screen. And a new twist after December 1, that should be 2021, this next month. If the DA dismisses it, there's a procedure that it automatically gets expunged. Now, we haven't received, it should be 2021. We haven't gotten that far yet. I don't trust the process, because if it was my life and I had a blemish on it, I'd want some lawyer or somebody to check it, and you make it go away, get it to go away as soon as you can. Now, the question I get practicing law most times about people's children, and your child will have a larceny under 18 years of age. Generally, it's larceny that I see. Most of the time, the district attorneys will try to work on other charges with you to get to a not guilty state. But if you're under 18, you have to wait 2 years, and then you can get anything expunged, which is usually a larceny charge. Somebody went into Belk. Somebody went into Walmart. The child stole something. They're found guilty. Well, those really do need to go away. All the colleges in our area, everywhere, get criminal records on everybody now. And if they see that, a lot of schools won't let you in. So if you
can I interrupt for a second? Question
you can interrupt
came in.
anytime you want to.
Thank you, dear. A question came in that relates to exactly what you're talking about right now.
Yes.
Did you say that there's a law that requires companies to expunge their records as well?
No.
Okay.
No, this is all about the state of North Carolina. Now, what I did say, they are providers of information that are licensed providers by the Secretary of State that disseminates the state's information and sends it out to credit bureaus and banks and other things. Under the law that we passed, they have to make it go away, if that's the question. Yes, those companies do. And they're supposed to, and that's the devil that's out there, because with the way computers are, and Sue, you're one of the best people I know in this area, it goes ad infinitum, and trying to get the toothpaste back in the tube is hard to do once it's out there. So I encourage everyone to go out. If your child's got something, go seek help from a lawyer, go seek help from legal aid. And you can go on the web and say free legal advice on expunctions. There's a bunch of groups that do this. The Greensboro Bar does it periodically. Some of the law firms will do it periodically. Best advice is find a lawyer, get it done, and get it over with before the toothpaste goes out of the tube and it goes everywhere. It is better. Now, next slide. The questions that I get a lot. Well, let's say you've tried this before. Let's say you've got an old conviction from your misspent youth, and you've got something that was a long time ago. Try it again. The law is new. The General Assembly has expanded this, and goodness only knows when they may take it away. So if you've got anybody that's got it, try again. And it's not everything will be expunged. I'm going to explain this in a minute, but there are certain things, and you got a good chance of making the thing go away. Next slide. Now, the questions that I get in my practice and I see on the internet, and we talk about in the Bar Association, Academy of Trial Lawyers, the Greensboro Bar, DWI. Can I get rid of that dadgum DWI I got at college? No. And the General Assembly has not seen fit to get away, to expunge DWIs. So don't try. It's not worth it. It ain't going. Lobby your legislators to do it. I put a bill in trying to do it. I thought after a period of time, you make a mistake, DWIs ought to go away. It's not. They stay forever, forever. Let's go back. All right. Now, cocaine is not expungable. Marijuana is, but you get cocaine and other various drugs of that. It's never expungable. The General Assembly has seen fit to not expunge that. They do marijuana. Marijuana is totally changing, particularly in this state. I expect a marijuana bill to come out of the General Assembly for medicinal purposes. It's changed in most states. The district attorneys are more lenient about marijuana than they've ever been. I can remember in high school, we had one guy that they vacuumed his car out down here on Spring Garden Street, found 2 seeds. He went to prison for 2 years for 2 seeds in his car. Different scenario now. If your child has a marijuana offense, we can make it go away under certain circumstances. Now, one of the other questions that I get is about out-of-state expunctions. I have one in Virginia, or I have one in West Virginia, or DC, or Florida. It's got to have occurred and be on the books in North Carolina. Now, when I talk about this, occasionally I'll get a question about federal court over in the Pryor building downtown. Can you expunge federal offenses? Generally not. You're pretty stuck in federal court. You have to go seek a presidential pardon. Can't make this up. I've got a bunch of them pending now. And you can go through that way, but it is extremely hard. It is expensive. So the rule is don't get a federal offense on your record. You probably cannot make it go away. One of the other questions is that I get from folks, my DNA is over in the district attorney's office over there. With your crime, the DNA with it would be expunged also. In this day and time, with the way DNA can be tested and other things, you don't want the DNA in anybody's hands, and that is expungable. Now, let's say you got a crime that's not one of these, that it's not a simple misdemeanor, it's not a larceny case. Next slide, please. And it's something else. Well, the good news is that the governor can grant relief in anything he wants to, in essence. He is the governor. And we have given, right now, Governor Cooper the power to grant pardons and clemency on matters. Back in the old day, I'll be very brief on this, there were 2 courts you could walk into with the kings. If you were in front of the king, you could walk on his right, and it would be the law court, which are law books and statutes written on tablets back then, but it was law. And the other court was equity court. The equity court was the court of good dadgum common sense. And the king would just sit up there and say, if it made sense, he would pardon you. We have adopted that in our North Carolina Constitution, and that ends up being the clemency law today, the court of good common sense. And the king is the governor of North Carolina. So let's say you've got something else that is more serious, you can apply for a pardon. I did 6 of them earlier this week, and the governor may grant you relief. Governor Hunt, who was governor of North Carolina longer than anyone, one afternoon gave me 28 pardons. I'm sitting there, and the man just believed everybody deserved a second chance, and he was cranking them out. I walked out of prison with 2 guys as the band was coming down to inaugurate the next governor. Other governors have not treated it that way, and they are limited, but it does give you relief. Now, last thing on this, sometimes you have to go back into court on your conviction. It's called the law of a motion for appropriate relief. Let's say something new has occurred. A witness has come up that saw your automobile accident that comes up years later. There was a problem with the judge, and I have that frequently, not as frequently in our county here, but across the state I do. And there may be a motion for appropriate relief. You can go back in with new evidence and get the darn thing dismissed. It happens a lot. It's called a motion for appropriate relief, and it's beyond the scope of this, but it is possible to wipe it out. Then you get to a not guilty, and then you can expunge the thing and send it away. So next slide. So in our very brief summary of this, relief is available. That's the good news for people that have a problem. Relief is available in many cases. Is it complicated? Yes. An average expungement will take now about 9 months to get through the process, up to a year. Simple ones based on not guilty or findings of not guilty may take a couple of months. But I know I have people calling my office, every 3 or 4 weeks. Is it in yet? Is it in yet? It takes a while. They have to order the record of your life from Raleigh. They're slow in Raleigh. They're better than they were, but it's still a slow process. So get started early. If it's hard to do this yourself. It's just so hard to find the right form. You can get halfway through the process and then you get denied, and then you're sweating, you're going back again. If you got any criminal record or anything other than the ones we talk about, cocaine, DWIs and stuff, that'll be never. It's better to do it early. It's better to make it go away. And because of the way the General Assembly is, they may change the law back again. So guys, I hope that will help somebody out there, help their kids back out there. And I'm open for very simple questions, Jody. No, any question you want to ask, I'll give you my honest 2 cents on it. It's an area I've been doing now for a lot of years. I'm tickled we have the laws we have. They could be a lot better. Let me mention one other one. If you get a prayer for judgment, and you've probably heard this from people, that's not expungible. It's not expungible. Now, we've had a couple of people in the North Carolina delegation from High Point that have tried to put that in the law, and it's pending, but it's not. It's something that needs to be done, and you need to encourage your legislators to do it. PJCs are the devil, and you think you got a good deal, but you don't, and it's not expungible. Jody, I'll come back to you and Sue for questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Don. That was really, really helpful information. I think one of the reasons that I remember Sue wanting to talk about or create this Let's Talk Law series is because legal things are so very complicated and layered, and access to them has major implications on someone's life experience. So it's really helpful to have somebody here talk through something as specific as this and how it can impact us. I think someone made a comment in the chat that said the stigma that's associated with the charge is sometimes the issue. And I think that's a really great point. Do you have anything to add to that, or?
Yeah, you look at someone's record and they got something bad on there, even though they got it dismissed, it still looks bad. In the child abuse areas, you look at that and you see that on somebody's record. I've got a woman now, the screen door let open, the child ran down the street. The neighbor picked up the child. They convicted this person of child abuse. It's awful. And sometimes you'll be not convicted, but it'll be on the record and you look like the devil and you're not. It was an accident. And that happens so many times. And you need to make it go away. You can now under these new statutes.
Don, I have a question from the chat, and it said, what are approximately the costs legally for pursuing expungements? What does it cost to pursue one? And then we've got a second part B of that question. Are expunctions different from expungements?
What a great question. No, it's all the same. It's used interchangeably, and expungements, it's all the very same thing. It costs, if you've been found not guilty or you have your case dismissed, cost you $0 for the court cost fees. These others are $175 that you pay to the clerk of court. Lawyer fees are not expensive here. Generally, it can be $300 to $600. It's not expensive in the scheme of life, but to somebody who's never been able to get a job because of their record, that's a lot of money. But it's not ferociously expensive. It's about an hour and a half of a lawyer time, and lawyers bill at different rates. Don't get a lawyer that does patent law to try to do one of these. Now, the patent lawyers are great, or bankruptcy law. You got to have somebody that does these and understand it, because it can just make a mess. But get someone who understands it.
Don, does the Greensboro Bar Association have any kind of program to help people who can't afford lawyers?
Periodically. And the pandemic has sort of chilled their efforts. I expect them to do one soon. Legal Aid does some in North Carolina. Other groups do. They're statewide groups that do help. The North Carolina Bar Association does them from time to time. This pandemic has chilled a lot of those efforts, because the Bar Association and others, Greensboro Bar, hadn't been getting together to talk about this. But yes, some groups do. And I would go to the web now and put in expungement, legal help free, or something like that. Or let me tell you what I do. Let's say you can't afford a computer. You can't afford to do that. Go to our public library in Greensboro. Mary Kay, our public libraries are great resources. You go to the help desk. They are great for people that can't afford it. They will help you and put you on the right track. You can also go down to the clerk of court's office. There's an expungement clerk who is overworked and underpaid and will try to help you. They will not do the paperwork for you. It would be practicing law, but they can give you the form to get you started that may be helpful. But it is a complicated process and full of pitfalls, the stuff you don't even know. So that's my suggestions.
And if I may, I wanted to add as well that you're welcome to call the Human Rights Office with the city. We have a program called Thrive GSO and a partnership with both Legal Aid of North Carolina and the Bar Association. So they can review your record over at Legal Aid and at least get you started and let you know if you qualify. If you do qualify, they'll run you through their process. If you qualify financially, they can do it free of charge. So we're another resource for expungement as well.
Excellent.
Don, I have a question that is maybe a clarification. The question says, Mr. Vaughan said that if a DA dismisses a case, it's automatically expunged. What if a judge dismisses the case is it also automatically expunged?
Well, in criminal law, yeah, it's not automatically expunged. The statute says the district attorney's office must expunge when they dismiss a case. The judge, you would have to go through the process because that's a not guilty finding. That's one of those pitfall kind of things that'll drive you crazy. But that's the way the statute is written now, and that's supposed to go into effect December 1st. But Lord, this legislature may change that too before they go home. So yeah, I wouldn't rely on that right now.
Okay, we have more questions. Regarding not guilty or dismissed charges, is there any system in place to notify people eligible prior to December 2020?
If you're committed, if your crime is committed before then, you have been to court or you know what it is. What you can do is go down. Let's say it's the offense was committed in Guilford County. You would go down to the Guilford County Clerk of Court on the UG level. And they actually, this clerk is doing pretty well. I'll throw some kudos out to her. She has gotten some new systems in. It is great. You don't have to wait in line long. You go down, you go see one of the clerks, you show them your driver's license or some ID and get them to run it. And it doesn't take long now. Over the years, we've had long lines, and depending on what the General Assembly will provide for funding, right now it's very easy to do. I would go down there, get them to run your record, and they'll run you a simple record. If you need a certified record for an employee or something, you got to go to bookkeeping, pay them, I think it's $10, and walk back over and get it. But if you just need a regular record, you can get them readily.
Okay, please check the chat. Jody just put a PDF in there that's a resource list of places to get help for expungements. We have another question. Don, can you speak about SB 301 that becomes effective in December?
No. Has it been passed now?
I don't know.
I don't know
repeating
either.
the question.
That thing has changed so many times. I don't know. Maybe somebody on here can give the specifics.
Okay, we'll look it up. Okay.
Well, one of the
So-
problems we have, people will see stuff on the internet and say, golly, that's the new law coming up. It ain't passed or it hasn't been signed by the governor or something. So it's fraught with difficulty this time of year.
Okay, we have another question. Someone I know was under 18 when the incident happened, the felony. Now she's over 18. Does the fact that she's not a minor anymore impact her ability to get an expungement for something that happened when she was a minor?
Here is the question. If she was 18, she's treated as an adult in North Carolina. If she was treated as a juvenile, those records are sealed. Okay. Let's say you have an offense and you're a younger child, it's sealed. If the question is, we would go by the conviction date, and that will trigger the expungement.
Okay.
Depends on when she was.
You-
But under or over 18, there's a way to make it go away.
Okay, this is from a concerned parent. My son or daughter has a conviction. I'd like to get an expungement for them. Do I have to tell them that I'm trying to do that? Do they have to participate in the process? I don't want them to be disappointed if it fails.
No,
No what?
no, you don't have to tell them.
Oh, okay, cool.
Now, the way to do that is to have a lawyer sign the documents. Okay. If the child were to do it, the child's got to sign, somebody's got to sign the documents. The trick is getting a lawyer to do it. On the form, there's a place somebody's got to sign it. If you're the counsel for them, you can sign that document moving on. That's what I would do.
Okay. If you have questions, please put, okay, immigrants. Can immigrants get their records expunged?
Yes.
And do you want to talk anything else about?
Well,
that?
somebody actually sent a a question in
Mhm.
immigrants can get their records expunged. There's no difference there. But, Jody, I'm gonna send this over to you because you actually got the question. And can you give us the actual question that was asked?
Yeah, absolutely. It had to do with record expungement. What it does is it wipes out all of the records. And this was an immigration attorney that was commenting. And he said, if you're not a US citizen, please get certified copies of all of your criminal records before they're expunged. The reason is that when you go to apply for citizenship or a green card or any kind of immigration status, the burden is on the applicant to prove that they're admissible. And if the criminal records are gone, they may not be able to carry their burden. So immigration attorneys have a really hard time if a record's been expunged and they have to prove that thing happened, they can't prove it. So it's really important if you are going to pursue expungement, that you get the certified copies of all of your criminal record before it's expunged, and you keep copies of those records. Make sure your immigration attorney has them.
And get a good immigration lawyer. That is a complex area of law. And there's specialists that just do that, and they're great.
If you have any, you've got a lawyer here. If you have a question, please put it into chat. Or we're going to be buying Don a cup of coffee and sending him home.
I'm actually curious. Do you feel like the system is set up the way it should be, or do you feel like expungement should be open to more people? And if so, how do we as community members advocate for change? What's the best way to do that? Appeal to our legislators, or is there something else we can be doing?
2 points. After a period of time, if you get a DWI, you ought to be able to expunge it. 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, people can make a mistake. Forgive them for the mistake. If they make it again, put them in jail. They make it the third time, put them in jail longer. But occasionally it's a wake-up call for people, and they change their life, and it ought to go away. I go pull criminal records up now, and I can see who got their DWI, and they stay on forever. That ought to be done. Prayer for judgments means the courts prays over your case. You can't expunge those. I got to take them back into court, get the thing changed, and then do it. It's just a hassle. Those ought to be expunged. Representative Faircloth has the bill from mainly High Point. He's got Greensboro, I think a couple of Greensboro precincts. He's got the bill now, and I hope they pass that. Everybody deserves a second chance. Now, should you get a 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th chance? Well, if you keep doing it, that's your fault. But give people a break, give them some time, make them do the punishment, like on DWIs, make them go through the training, do it without a license for a while, do some stuff, but give them a break later. You need a car to get around, to get a job. You got to take care of your kids and your family. Those type of things ought to be expanded by the General Assembly, and it should be easy access. You shouldn't have to go get, a whole barrel of lawyers to get it done. That's my opinion. When I was in the Senate, this is one of the things I wanted to do, and it certainly, I was just one of many, but it helped start the ball rolling, and maybe, hopefully, it helps some people.
Donna, we've got a couple of questions. If you have a felony conviction that has multiple counts, can all the counts be expunged for the same conviction?
Here's one of the questions, and this is one of these crazy pitfall questions. If it was committed, believe it or not, if they were heard in the same session of court, then you can bundle them and do it. If they were done over periods of time, you're going to have trouble doing it. Isn't that crazy? And who knows what the same session of court is? We run into that all the time on the same calendars, and the law is not well written there. But if you have multiple convictions over multiple times, yes, you can expunge stuff. What we try to do is pick off the not guilties, the dismissals at the day, and get those to go away, and then work on the tougher stuff. But heavyweight drugs are never expungable in this state.
Back from the beginning of almost 45 minutes ago, one of our audience members has done the research and said SB 301 was signed by the governor on August 26th and
Okay.
becomes effective in December.
Okay, I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, now we have a question, but thank you, audience member who knows how to use
There-
Google.
Maybe tell us what that is.
I'll see if we can figure out who that was, but do you find there is a discrimination element, including poverty or race or other things in the expungement process?
I think there's discrimination and problems in the whole judicial system, and it's deep seated. I'm giving you my opinion. There's a lot of problems there, and that's why we have your commission to help people out. I see all kinds of problems in the system, and I wish they could all be corrected.
If you are the person who asked the question about SB 301, do you want to unmute and tell Don what you found? I don't know who it is. Everything's anonymous.
Yeah, I know it has to do with expanding the definitions for expungements. Let me take a quick look here. It was Janie Rollins. I don't know, Janie, if you want to unmute yourself and share a little more. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
And there's some other bills that are pending too. Let's hope the heck they pass.
What do you think the chances are? Okay.
Just
I'm sorry,
looking from 3,000 feet up, it's not a good General Assembly as I've had in the past on these bills. The others have been better. It's the control of the legislative bodies and stuff. The people that have opposed this in the past have been like the Sheriff's Association, the District Attorney's Association, which are powerful lobbies. They have sort of come around with legislators, but they haven't come around the way I would like as a defense lawyer to do. Legislators are good. Here we are. Let me I can get on my soapbox. We're in November now. They hadn't passed a budget yet. They said they would go home in July. Here we are. And, they need to hurry up, get the work done, go home so we can rely on what they do. That's my 2 cents. Not some people want to stay down there all the time.
Very shortly, Jody has put a
Mike, will
PDF
you
into
turn that volume down, please?
PDF into the chat. And was that the person who wanted to talk about 301?
Yes.
Can
that was-
can she do that again?
Yeah,
Apparently-
Janie. Mhm.
Good evening. This is Janie Rollins, and I am a regional reentry specialist with the Department of Commerce, and I've been trying to figure out Senate Bill 301. That's why I wanted the attorney to kind of hear, but I will tell you that it does provide for expunction of an eligible offense despite an impaired driving conviction if the impaired driving conviction occurred more than 5 years prior to filing the petition. It allows for expunction of up to 3 non-violent felonies if they occurred within 24 months of each other and 20 years has passed since either the conviction date or the completion of the sentence. It provides that an attorney can file an expunction on behalf of a person who committed certain crimes, and I don't know what they are, if they were under the age of 18. And it provides that eligible offenses can be expunged in more than one county if the petitions are filed within a 30-day period. And that's kind of as much as I've been able to find out. I have been trying to talk with my customers about it because, of course, we're about finding people employment. So we're trying to get their records cleaned up the best we can. And I just wondered if you had any other information.
I do not, and that has not been reported very widely. They haven't been reported at all in the things we read, Lawyers Weekly and other things. It's good news. Is it fraught with complication? Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yes.
Certainly are not out for it yet. It takes, once a bill is passed, it takes about 3 months to get in the system for the administrative office, of course, to get the forms ready for people. So I'm guessing in December will be the time we'll really start to see that. If it is, it's good news, and it's at least a step forward.
I think it's significant about the impaired driving charges not keeping other eligible convictions from being expunged. I do think that's significant.
Yeah, and I don't know what exactly that means.
Yeah,
we-
well-
and on that note, we are going to have to bring this to a close. We had an hour scheduled for this. We've had great Q&A, and I thank you all for coming. Dr. Jones, the two things. There will be a link very shortly in the chat to a very short survey about this session and information about the next one, which is in early December, I believe. And you'll get to find out what the topic is if you fill out the survey. And you can request information so you're alerted as to what the second one is. After that, personally, I'd like to thank Don Vaughan for giving us his time and expertise on all of this. I still can't think of anybody better in North Carolina to talk about the big picture on expungement and the details. And Dr. Love Jones is the chair of executive director of the city's Human Rights Division, and I'm sure she would like to say something to us. Dr.
Excuse
Jones?
me, Commissioner Polinsky, before you go there is actually one individual who has a hand up. I just want to recognize that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that.
Shonda Dre. I apologize for butchering your name, but if you've got your hand up, we just want to acknowledge that.
Do you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so my question for me, because I came into the meeting like a little late, my question is if you have a charge that someone had put on you falsely and it got dismissed, but how is there a way to get that from being on, like showing on my record?
If it's dismissed, you can get it expunged. It's eligible for expungement. Dismissals and not guilties under the law can get it. You have to go through the process, but I'd make it go away. Even though it's no fault of yours, the problem is your name will stay on the with the court system forever if you don't.
And do that type of do it go through the process of like 9 months? I think I read it say 9 to 12 months, because I kind of I need it to be kind of done quickly, because it's affecting the jobs that I have because of the type of charge it was. So it cost me a job, and then it's costing me, jobs.
You're
Now,
a poster child for this program. You're someone that needs to go, and there's a list of free services. If you can't, Judy, I think you put up a list here in the chat of those that can help you do that. The trick is going to be do it as quick as possible, because these providers still go out and get this information and they disseminate. That's what they do for a living, and it'd be the devil to get the toothpaste back in the tube here. So you might contact, and this is just a thought, the Greensboro Bar Association. There's nothing going on right now, but usually around Christmas time, they try to help and can help you do that, or go on the web and try to find someone to help you. Do it sooner than later. And the good news is not guilties and dismissals are quicker than the other process. You may can get it done by the end of the year if you hurry.
Okay, please note in the chat, Jody has been adding she just added the slides from Don's presentation in PDF format. Also, there is that resource list and there is a link to the survey that we're asking you to complete. It's a PDF called Let's Talk Law Expungement, and it's in the chat. So please do the survey. And now, Doug, should I turn things back over to you or do we go directly to Dr. Jones?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's Dr. Jones first and then myself.
Well, again, thank you, especially for the information that you shared tonight. I think that one of the things that we forget is that when people are seeking resources, it is usually the first hurdle is to get the information to people so that they can know what they have to work with, especially when it comes to reentry populations and second chance populations. The reality is that there's this huge barrier when it comes to who knows what people knowing what they're eligible for. And I think that sometimes when we talk about how people should make efforts, to help themselves or to do better or to get ahead, we forget that if you don't have the information, if you have no clue whatsoever, what you have access to or the rights that you have, then that's where the first hurdle lies. And so I am very thankful not only to, sorry, I had to take a moment to put someone on mute, but I'm very thankful to you, Don Vaughan, for taking the time, not only today, but actually at the foundation of your work, all of the years, all of the countless efforts to say, this is an issue, it deserves attention. And for those who are in positions of power who can do something, we need to move forward. And I think that of course, is the domino effect of where we are now, where the laws are more progressive. And what our hope is that in a shorter period of time, the progression of the laws will be more intense so that people can get access not only to the information, but to the opportunity to have their records expunged. It's critical. When our department first started Thrive GSO and started looking more closely at housing opportunities, jobs, education, all of these different things that it takes to really feel like you've got a footprint in Greensboro, we knew that it would be important to have experts at the table who could educate the community, but also how important it would be for commissions to come behind those efforts and it not only be a departmentally sponsored effort, but it to be something that commissions who were chosen not only by council, but by the community to really sink their teeth into and really get committed to putting the information out there. So I want to also certainly affirm the work of the Human Rights Commission this evening for sitting down, taking the time to map out this series where people could be brought closer to this information that is so critical to having a positive experience in Greensboro. And then of course, finally, I certainly want to say thank you to the most critical staff behind this endeavor, which is Jody Stanley. You'd really be surprised how many details go into these sort of programs so that the general public can get the information that they need. And the commission takes the time with Jody to say, this is the vision. This is how we want to help. Jody then takes that and builds the logistics. And so I'm very thankful for the partnership between our staff and the Human Rights Commission. I'm very, very thankful, and I count it a privilege to be a leader of a department that does this kind of work. And most certainly, I'm thankful to the members of the community who definitely thought it purposeful to log on tonight, get their information out there, get the questions asked that they need asked, and to be able to take this information back to community members who are in need. Thank you so much. Thank you to people who took the time to log on so that they could help themselves, because sometimes it really is a matter of just knowing, where do I go to get the information? It has nothing to do with a person's individual agency and their willingness to help themselves. They just need to know where to get the help. So thank you to everyone. And I'm going to now turn it into the hands of Chair Bender.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Love Jones. I always ask these folks to never allow me to follow her. And for whatever reasons, I always have to follow her. She is always so passionate, always so high energy, eloquent, articulate, and on the point always. And so we thank her and we honor her and all of the wonderful folks who continue to do great work, including our commissioners. And again, Don Vaughan, you are a part of our Hall of Fame as well. So thank you very much. And thanks to all of you. I have 2 official pieces of business. I won't belabor the point because I think I'm the only thing that's standing between this session and somebody's dinner. So I will do 2 things officially. They're both very, very brief. One, of course, is just sort of acknowledging absences of the commissioners themselves officially for the evening. And I think all of our commissioners are either on or have been on this evening. And I want to thank you for that, with one exception, and that is Commissioner Savoy. And she certainly gets a pass because of some personal things she's been going through. And so our hearts and our minds and our thoughts and our prayers are with her. But other than that, I will officially, it is now 7:06 p.m. I will officially adjourn our meeting if all hearts and minds are clear. And thank you all again for being a part of this incredible piece of work. There's more to come. We are here for you, and we want to continue to be your partners in helping to lift up our beloved community. Thank you all so very much. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank
and
you. Great program.
The
Be well,
link
thank you.
is in chat for the survey. The survey's important for the next session and the sessions we have planned after that. Please complete the survey. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Commissioner Polinsky.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Jody. Hi, Love. Don, if he's still there. Everyone, this is Britt Jackson, Commissioner Jackson, and I did come in a whole hour late. I realized the time difference in Colorado. I took a trip to a birthday party, and I look up and it's 5:07. I'm like, perfect, I'm on time. And realizing that North Carolina is, I guess, an hour ahead if I guess I'm an hour late. So I just want to sincerely apologize, and I'll make the next meeting for sure and continue to be active with the emails and just be as attentive as I can be. So thank you again.
Absolutely. Jody, did we need to touch bases on anything?
No, I don't think so. I was going to send you a
Okay.
chat, but yeah,
Okay.
I'll send you a message. All right, so
Okay.
we're good.
Yep, we're good.
All right,
All right,
good.
all right.
Take care.
Sure.